Hello, it's Elle's voice. I'm back with another podcast. I don't know if you noticed, but I took a break last week from my podcast. Some of you guys were nice enough to message me and ask for an upload, and I really appreciate that. It's nice knowing that there are some of you guys that look forward to my uploads. I actually gave myself a break so that I can gather some thoughts and ideas for the upcoming podcast, and it's okay to take a break every once in a while, diba? It's healthy and refreshing, especially when you feel like you're on the verge of a burnout, which is sort of one of the other reasons why I took a break. So, on today's podcast, we'll be talking about something that most of us, us millennials, are familiar of. Actually, ewan ko bakit nagkaroon ng ganito eh. Kasi sa pagkakaalam ko, dati wala namang gantong klase na pagbitaw or pag-iwan sa tao eh. Or maybe I don't have that much knowledge in these types of things. Pero kasi kahit papano dati nagpapaalam. So, today's topic is about ghosting. Yep, ghosting. Ayan na. I'm sure most of us have had an experience on being ghosted. Baka nga ilan sa mga nakikinig ngayon ghoster eh. So, ghosting. First off, I'll give you a definition on what ghosting is. Ghosting is the practice of ending a personal relationship with someone by suddenly and without explanation withdrawing from all communication. Sa madaling salita, yung mga nangiiwan sa ere. Siguro timely rin kasi to kaya ever since ng pandemic and quarantine, syempre maraming naghahanap ng paraan maglibang. Baka yung iba naghahanap ng kausap, siguro through Omegle or Near Group or other dating apps. Pero eto masasabi ko lang, don't fall in love during quarantine. Bakit? Lahat naman ng tao bored, pampalipas ng oras lang yan. Unless you're lucky and whatever you built with that person lasts. Just keep safe and don't get your hopes up. Anyway, back to the topic. Ghosting has become way too common of a thing in modern days. And the sad thing is that many people do it, and it's such a shitty thing to do. In the context of dating, it's totally cool to reject someone if you don't feel a click or spark. Rejection is okay so long as you're forward and honest with that person. Oo, masakit yung ma-reject. It hurts, but at least there's clarity and closure. Ghosting, on the other hand, hurts 10 times more than normal rejection. Usually, it starts when they ignore your text or iniiwasan ka pag nakikita mo sila, and they offer no explanation. It leaves the ghosted person wondering what they did wrong. Even if they haven't necessarily done anything wrong, it leaves them wondering what terms they're on with that person who ghosted them. And it shatters trust and results in paranoia and anxiety. The ghosted person is completely left in the dark without a clue, and it hurts far more than it would have if the other person had simply explained that they aren't interested or whatever the case may be. In the case of just normal friendships, if a friendship ends with no explanation and the person ghosts you, you're left with the same feeling of being in the dark. To elaborate, we have friends that have busy schedules and are focused on their own lives, and lahat naman tayo, we live our own lives separately. Ako, may mga kaibigan ako na minsan months kami bago mag-usap, but we still get together and can talk as though no time has passed. Yun, parang dati lang din. I read that confrontation is important. It provides closure, honesty, and it's just common human decency. Yung ghosting kasi, it's very disrespectful and hurtful. You treat someone who was once a friend, or maybe even more than a friend, with less respect than you would treat a stranger. You treat them as if they don't exist, and it completely dehumanizes them. Here's an unpopular opinion. Sometimes the ghosted bring it upon themselves. Ito, wag kayong magalit sa akin. Pero, before when I was like online dating, I would read over the person's profile and choose something that they're interested in and try and start a conversation about it. Give them a chance to show passion or build confidence. And frequently, I would have no hobbies in common with someone, but they seemed like a decent enough person, so I would ask about something they might relate to my interest. For example, interests go politics, psychology. Multiple times, I would ask question after question, and they would give me an answer after answer, without reciprocating interest. Parang hindi na nga siya conversation eh. It was more like an interview. And eventually, I had no more questions. I ran out. I understood the concept, the inspiration, the passion, even soft pitch, how it related to my interest, but they expressed no interest in my views, so I just stopped asking questions. Eventually, the discussion had stagnated and the replies became short, and eventually it died down. I'm a victim and perpetrator of this. I hate when people ghost me, and it actually sends me into deep sadness because I think about all the reasons why they could hate me or maybe think I'm weird. On the other hand, I ghost sometimes. Not because I'm trying to be mean, but because I have so much shit on my plate that I just avoid everyone. Sometimes conversations take a lot out of me, and I want to be genuine with the person I'm communicating with. I don't want to sound half-hearted and unable to reciprocate the energy they're giving me. I'll always text back naman, but it takes me a bit too long. Sometimes it lasts for 3 months bago ako mag-reply, and I get that they have the right to be mad at me. A close friend of mine got ghosted by a man. She had been seeing them for like 2 months, and one day out of the blue, he just didn't reply to her messages. Now, being the strong and independent woman she is, her approach was to confront him until he picked up. This included contacting him for several numbers and texting him from different numbers, then telling him off for ghosting her, before proceeding to never speak to him again. At that time, nagulat ako sa behavior niya, and tinanong ko siya, bakit mo pa kinonfront? And nung sinabi niya sa akin, parang ever since sinabi niya to, parang gusto ko na rin siya i-apply sa buhay ko. Sabi niya, when a man behaves like a child, treat him like one. You could have just taken hint and let it go or ignored, but then he would have gone on thinking that this behavior is acceptable. He would have continued thinking ghosting was an appropriate way to end a relationship. Ghosting continues to occur because we allow those who do it to take no responsibility while we sit there and wonder what we did wrong. If you make someone who behaved like a coward feel like a coward, he will double think ghosting someone else. Unlike her, my friend, my approach to ghosting continues to take the first hint and just walk away or bahala na or ignore it. But when I do get the chance to speak to a person who ghosted me, my approach is actually to just rip them to shreds and tell them off that whatever they're doing, that ghosting is not the proper way to end a relationship. Moral of the story, if you don't like ghosting, then stop letting it be the easy way out. Eto, may sinend sa akin si Chelsea. She has a YouTube channel pala, guys. You should go check her out. I will link everything in the description on my YouTube channel, and also I'll reference everything in Spotify. So, may iba't ibang uri daw ng ghoster. Sige, isa-isahin natin ha. So, yung una, nagsisimula siya sa sunod-sunod na reacts sa post mo. Pwedeng heart reacts or haha reacts, tapos bigla na lang magchat-chat. Yan yung unang type daw ng ghoster. Yung pangalawa naman, sila yung madalas na nagsasabi na, uy, wait, magcha-church lang ako. Tapos mahugulat ka, di na siya bumabalik. 1 week na siguro siya nag-charge, sana sumabog yung charger niyo. Tapos ito pa, yung mga nagsishare ng post na 𝗸𝗀cie𝘄𝗵𝗴, tapos magugulat ka, i-chat ka na. Tapos hanggang doon na yun na yun. Ito pa, yung mahilig mag-BRB, tapos ilang months na lumipas, di pa rin bumabalik. Ito. Ito yung lodi sa lahat eh. Yung di nagpapaalam. Yung wala man lang dahilan, di man naggumawa ng segue, yung parang bula lang na biglang naglaho. Malakas sila eh. Ito pa, yung nagsasabi na, sige next week na lang, kinuha kasi ni mama papa yung cellphone ko. Di na ako makaka-online. Kinonfess daw yung cellphone. Pero pag in-stock mo naman, ang daming shared post. Ay nako. Ito pa, yung sasabihin nila, yung sandali ay inutusan ako bumili. Tapos umabot na ng 5 months, hindi pa rin nagre-reply. Saan ka ba bumili? Sa Mars? Yung yun ba yung kaya ba nagkaroon ng boarding pass? Ha? Nauna ka na? Ha? Ito pa, yung nagsasabi na SLR, sorry late reply. Sila yung sobrang tagal mag-chat. Yung halos ang haba ng interval ng oras nyo, yung difference ng time nyo. Tapos abot pa ng 10 months or 5 months bago mag-chat, makangamusta na lang. Eto, sila naman yung mga nagsasabi na, uy wait, maliligo lang ako. Tapos umabot na ng 1 buwan, naliligo ka pa rin. Baka sobrang kintab mo na niyan, di ka na mahahawa sa COVID. Ayan. Yung sunod pa, yung sila yung aabuti ng ilang linggo or buwan bago mag-chat kasi sasabihin nila, uy wait, kumain lang ako. Ano ba yung tiyan mo? Drum? Malaki? Ha? Dahil mo naman ata kinain, di ka na bumalik. So, ayan. Ito talaga. Ito pong malakasan eh. Yung sasabihin niya, sorry, hindi ako nakareply kasi may problema ako eh. Umabot na ng 5 months. Ang tagal naman ang problema mo. Ay, ito pa wala. Yung nagsasabi na, wala kasi akong notif na tatanggap eh. Sure ka? Kasi nakikita ko naman, lagi ka naman nagpo-post, tapos lagi ka nagko-comment sa mga friends mo. Okay ka lang? Walang notif ka dyan. So ayan. Yan yung mga ilan sa mga type ng ghosters. Kayo, comment kayo kung may alam kayo na iba't iba pang uri ng ghosters. Pero yan yung ilan sa madalas na alam ko. Anyway, balik na tayo sa ating pinapag-usapan. Napansin ko lang, parang not many are brave enough to or have the guts to call out the ghoster. Kasi siguro dito sa Pilipinas, pag nag-chat ka pa para tanungin siya, bakit niya ginawa yun, doesn't it like make you look sort of pathetic? Or parang you care too much? Or parang kino-compromise mo na rin yung dignidad mo nun pag nag-reach out ka pa? Kaya nga diba may mga times na hinahayaan na lang natin. But also, itong ghosting talaga, it's a completely unacceptable behavior. Madalas, we all play the I don't care game. Yung tipong, edi sige, wala na akong pake sa'yo vibe. Kasi diba parang, those who care less are often seen as stronger and more mentally stable. Yes, rejecting someone isn't easy. And if someone doesn't accept you, telling them you no longer want them in your life, you should absolutely block them and stop talking to them or even delete them. But not having the decency to simply state, sorry, I don't want you in my life, should be as badly seen as a crazy stalker ex. Alam mo yun, masakit kasi talaga pag walang explanation eh. Eto pa. This is what lies with the problem of ghosting. It's an uncomfortable truth, but it's a truth that needs to be heard. How do you know there's a problem if no one speaks up? How do you know if the person you're still talking to is interested if they don't speak up? How do you know your significant other still wants you if they don't speak up? Instead, we take a passive-aggressive route involving lack of communication and vague social media statuses. We build a world of silence resulting in paranoia and anxiety. Now, what justifies that? What are you accomplishing by not speaking your mind? Instead, you just choose to leave a person in an emotional limbo when in your mind you have already moved on to someone new. It's sad kasi not giving half a fuck for what you've done to the other person. It feels like ghosting is the most cowardly way to distance yourself from someone. If you don't want to continue being friends or date someone or whatever, just have the balls to tell that person. Please, please, please remember the person you are talking to is human and please be respectful. If any part of you respects that person you plan to ghost, you should just tell them. It makes the healing process much easier. Nga pala, nag-post ako sa My Day and I did a poll asking if nag-ghost ka na ba? And the response was overwhelming. 76% said yes, nag-ghost na sila. While 24% said no, di pa sila nag-ghost. So I checked kung sino-sino yung mga nag-respond and from what I noticed, yung mga nag-no, karamihan sila parang in a relationship. And I was wondering, baka yung iba na nag-no, wala pang experience sa ghosting. Kaya, nag-follow-up post ako. Sabi ko naman sa isa kong My Day, I asked if which of the two are you? Yung nang-ghost or yung ginost? And surprisingly, my question was answered. Yung nasa 24% na yun, ghost or yung iba. I gathered some stories from those who have responded, and I'm gonna share a few of them with you guys. Of course, the people involved in these stories will remain anonymous as promised. So, let's start off with the person who requested today's topic. We'll call her Anon1. Her story goes like this. Hi Michelle, nag-ghost kasi ako 6 months ago, pero yung pakiramdam sobrang tindi pa rin. So August 2018 ko siya unang chinat. Wala naman talaga ako dapat plano na seryosohin kasi medyo dumb yung pagsisimula ng conversation namin. Simula pa lang kami mag-uusap, inamin ko na sa kanya na gusto ko siya. Kasi ayoko paligoy-ligoy dahil yun naman talaga yung nararamdaman ko. Pero to be honest, di naman ako maasa na magugustuhan niya rin ako. Nung umabot na kami ng 5 buwan sa pagkakatanda ko, medyo tumitindi na rin yung paglalandian namin. Siguro ako lang affected nun kasi ako lang naman yung umamin pero nung mga oras na yun nagsimula na akong umasa na baka nagugustuhan niya na rin ako kasi grabe na rin siya magbitaw ng mga nakakakilig na chat. Hanggang sa dumating yung oras na sobrang tagal niya mag-reply, inaabot na 1 araw hanggang sa 1 linggo bago siya ulit mag-chat. One time pa nga umabot ng 2 months at di na talaga siya nagparamdam. Pero dahil dalang-dala ako noon sa mga sinabi niya, kinakamusta ko siya. Tapos nagtuloy-tuloy ulit yung fling namin hanggang sa umabot na ng 1 taon. Hindi ko na ginawang detailed yung pagkakwento pero yung last 5 months namin magkausap sobrang sakit na sa pakiramdam. Kasi madalang na siya mag-reply sa akin at may mga nababalitaan pa ako na may bago pa siyang kausap. Umabot nga sa 1.5 taon kami nag-uusap. Iba't ibang klase ng pakiramdam yung binigay niya sa akin na majority sakit sa puso. Kung sa kanya, wala lang yun ganong katagal kaya madali lang sa kanya umalis na walang paalam. Sa akin sobra yung impact na kahit 6 na buwan nang nakalipas, naiyak pa rin ako kasi madalas ko siyang naaalala. Kahit sabihin pa na iba na through chat lang naman yun, pero sobrang big deal sa akin kasi ibinuhos ko lahat ng emosyon ko at pagmamahal na kaya kong ibigay. Sa ngayon, namimiss ko pa rin siya at mahal ko pa rin siya. Pero wala na ako ibang pwedeng gawin kundi pilitin na kalimutan siya. Araw-araw ko parang tinatanong yung sarili ko kung ano yung naging kulang ko at may nagawa ba akong mali. Pero matapos lahat sa ganung paraan. This Anon, guys, itong Anon na to is actually someone I'm very fond of. And sa totoo lang, saksi ako sa buong pangyayari. Spending 6 months coping with being ghosted and having to rewire yourself to suddenly be okay with that same person is not healthy. Minsan nga hindi possible. Pero I feel for you, Anon. It sucks to get mixed signals, like feeling as if you have a connection with a guy 1 minute and then the next thing, nawala na, parang bula lang. It would make things much easier if he wasn't a coward and would just be upfront. Unfortunately, we can't control how people handle themselves. Eto, here's another one. Etong si Anna na to, Anna number 2, yung kinuwento niyang story sa akin, I can't help but laugh. Kasi naman, si Anon talaga, so basically kasi, tinangay yung cellphone niya, yung iPhone 5S niya. And siya rin naman nagsabi sa akin na pinagtatawanan na lang niya ito ngayon whenever naiisip niya. So, eto, kwento ko sa inyo. This is how it went down for Anon number 2. Bali, we started out as friends talaga. First week of class, na-meet ko siya during orientation. Tapos, we connected on social media. Pero later on, nawala yung connection kasi naging busy sa school stuff. Tapos after na school year, nagparamdam siya bigla nung summer break. Ayun, hinarot ako. Sinabi ko di ako ready mag-commit. Bago kasi mag-summer that year, kakatapos ko lang sa super toxic na relationship. Emi lang naman, but still really toxic talaga. So ayun, kinlaro ko talaga na ayoko mag-commit. Pero syempre, ako tong marupok and vulnerable that time dahil nga kakatapos lang sa crappy relationship and had slight feelings sa kanya. Out of nowhere, bigla na siyang nag-voice call. And video call pala. Kasama niya yung ex niya. He said na accident lang yun. Pero before mangyari yun, napaparinig siya sa social media na sirado yung phone niya. So ako, mabait ako kaya pinahiram ko. He's using my phone that time nung nag-video ko and hinarot niya yung ex niya. So kasi, kaya ko naman pinahiram kasi sabi niya he needed it to communicate sa fam niya. Nagkita kami sa 𝗷𝘀𝘀, hangout lang dapat pero I ended up lending him my spare phone. And obviously, napakata ako sa part na yun. I was 19 back then, so 2 years ago. And nabalitaan ko na nasira niya yung phone na yun. And he reached out saying na babayaran niya at hanggang ngayon di pa rin nababayaran. Hinayaan ko na lang, natatawa na nga lang ako kasi di naman ako yung nasira yung character. So yan yung kwento ni Anna number 2 na tinangay yung kanyang cellphone. Ito pa guys, for the last story that I'll be doing today, also sa lahat na nag-send sa akin ng kwento nila about sa ghosting and being ghosted, maraming salamat pero hindi ka kasi malalagay lahat dito. Don't worry, I put everything in consideration and I also read your stories naman. So, for the last story for today, we'll be talking about Anon number 3. So, si Anon number 3, our final Anon, ito medyo masakit kasi dumating sa point na napakilala sa fam. Siguro may iba dyan na nakarating din sa ganitong sitwasyon. So, pakinggan natin Pakinggan nyo. 3rd year ako nun. Then, taga-ibang school siya. Nagkakilala kami through Facebook. At kilala naman namin isa't isa kasi marami kami mutuals that time. So, ito na nga. Di ko talaga siya bet nun kasi siya tong nagpapakita ng motibo. Kaso ganyan, kaso ganito. Wala naman siyang nababanggit about sa love life niya. Kaya naisip ko na baka friendly lang talaga siya kasi bigla niya akong chinat. Yung chat namin umabot ng 1 month hanggang sa nagkahingaan ng number. Tuloy-tuloy na yung usapan namin, umaabot umaga tas hanggang gabi. 1 month din lumipas na full ako. Lumalim yung meron sa amin. First meet namin sa sambahan. And after namin magsamba, dinala niya ako sa kanila, sa mga kapatid niya, sa tita niya. At pinakilala niya ako. Pero di siya nagsasabi kung ano relationship namin. Pero sure ako iba na yung nasa isip ng fam niya. So ayun na nga. Tumagal pa din pag-uusap namin, wala pa rin label. And akala ko kasi meron na kami feel sa isa't isa. Yun lang pala, ako lang pala. I mean, after 2 weeks mula nun, nagbalitaan ko na may nililigawan na siya. Tropa niya lang din nagsabi. And sabi niya dun sa nililigawan niya na mag-best friend kaming dalawa. After ko malaman yun, chinat ko siya and hindi siya nagre-reply. First heartbreak niya daw to itong si Anon, number 3. And first time niya rin mag-ghost. At ito sabi niya, nalaman niya na lang na close yung babae sa fam na lalaki. At naiwan ako na nag-wonder ano nangyari. Ayun lang, 4th year nagparamdam siya sa akin and he was saying sorry sa nangyari. Pero huli na. Forgiven but not forgotten. Ito, I just want to let you guys know that someone who ghosts you is declaring that they aren't ready to treat you like an adult. Or to be honest, about their feelings in anything approaching a delicate situation. It's a clear sign that they are relying on primitive coping mechanisms like avoiding and denial, and is not able to have a mature relationship with you at this time. Base sa kwento ni Anna number 3, I think it's sad na he just called you as a best friend kasi lalo na kung may pinagsamahan kayo. Ang sakit nun lalo na na-fall ka pa. When the person you like stops returning our texts, the emotional consequence can run from unpleasant to severe. There's a profound lack of closure to the relationship, and it makes it impossible to interpret what went wrong. Ghosting causes you to question yourself, which can be devastating to your self esteem. It deprives you of any chance to work through what went wrong in the relationship. And ghosting is even more hurtful to people who have low self esteem in the first place. If what one person believed was a substantial relationship suddenly ends, without even the effort it would take to have a traditional breakup, the results can even produce a traumatic reaction. So ghosting is by any large not a great way to treat people you respect. For many people, ghosting can result in feelings of being disrespected, used, and disposable. If you have known the person beyond more than a few months, then it can be even more traumatic. When someone we love and trust disengages from us and cuts us off, it feels like a very deep betrayal. Ghosting is the ultimate use of the silent treatment, a tactic that has often been viewed by mental health professionals as a form of emotional cruelty. As per our first Anna na nag-share ng story niya, and saksi ako sa mga pinagdadaanan niya, sobrang lala talaga ng mararamdaman ng taong ginost. Kasi you would question yourself over and over, bakit niya kaya yung ginawa sa akin? Pero, sa mga ginost, gusto ko lang sabihin sa inyo na it's important that to remember that when someone ghosts you, it says nothing about you. Hindi ibig sabihin na worthless ka at you don't deserve love. But it says everything about that person's character who did the ghosting. Don't allow someone else's bad behavior to rob you of a better future by losing your vulnerability and shutting yourself off from another relationship. You just have to keep your energy focused and doing what makes you happy. I know, hindi yun ganun kadali, lalo na kung long-term yung naging pinagsamahan nyo. Pero, know that if you are someone who treats people with respect and integrity, then the ghoster simply wasn't on your wavelength. Hindi mo lang siguro siya talaga, hindi lang talaga siya para sa'yo talaga. And someone better is coming your way as long as you keep your heart open and your focus forward. So, I hope today's podcast was entertaining and fruitful. And again, sa lahat na nag-send sa akin ng stories nila about sa ghosting and experiences nila, thank you so much for responding. It was overwhelming and sobrang thank you sa inyo. Again, this podcast would have not been possible kung wala kayo. So, ayan. Thank you to everyone who's listening and who's still listening hanggang sa podcast na to. I hope you guys have a good day, a good night, a good afternoon. That's all. Once again, this is Elle's voice signing off. Goodbye.